greetings to you, you poor lost soul. You seem to have accidentally come across the TAFY podcast, the place where logic and good sense part ways from anything that people would find interesting in a podcast. For example, whilst trying to touch on the topic of what a perfect education would look like, we somehow cover subjects such as, will Twinkies sponsor us? What is a Twinkie? And how has COVID lockdown influenced education for the better or worse? To see how we leap around these subjects like a tripped out squirrel that thinks it's a gymnast, stick around. If you now realise that you should probably just move on, then just accept that this ain't for you. But yeah, this is episode 9. Episode 9 we've made it to, which is the penultimate, is that the right word? Penultimate episode in this season.
It is if it's...
Depends what you're trying to say.
Trying to get to 10.
Yes, this is the penultimate.
Okay, I'll cut that out.
If there were 12, then no.
If there were 9, then no. If there were any number other than 10, then no.
So in my head I had 10. That was where I was.
I mean, you told us that afterwards, though, so...
Okay, well now you know it's 10. So this is 9. Is that the penultimate episode? Well, that segues nicely into education. Being educated enough to know what penultimate means.
Oh, you're looking at us.
Well, there's no one else here. Not even
There
a
is.
viewer.
There's the black square. You could talk to that.
Oh yeah, you've somehow managed to get your audio through one channel of this chat and your video through a different.
I like to keep things interesting for people.
I like to dominate. It's in case we have to vote, isn't it? You've got 2 votes.
Yeah, but I can't raise my hand in one of them.
I don't know how this topic idea came up. We were talking about something to do with what would a good education. Oh, it was the last job on Earth, wasn't it? That we were talking about.
Yeah, and stuff like that. And like, we don't think we were taught what we needed to know for life. We were taught what the system thought we needed to know.
Unlike everybody else.
Yep, everybody else was taught things, and we weren't.
All those that went on to write self-help books. This one secret you need to know for success.
Apparently it's pay attention in school or something like that.
Pay attention when you read your fortune cookie. That's what you need.
I am still unclear as to whether fortune cookies are for eating.
You know, that they taste like maybe they shouldn't be. But I always eat them, and I usually finish them. I often think if there was a disaster, then there might be a supply of fortune cookies that will be the last food available.
It's Twinkies, isn't it? Not that I don't know if we have them over here, but it's
There's
always
that
the
one
Twinkie.
American shop in town, isn't there, that probably has
Oh yeah,
Twinkies?
yeah,
I think I ate a Twinkie once. It's like cake with cream in it, something like
yeah. It's not great.
Like an eclair kind of thing.
No, that's making it out to be a lot more than it is.
Oh, fake
Someone
cake.
tried to make an eclair.
Yeah, it's like somebody saw an eclair and went, "I've no idea how to bake."
So we're not going for the Twinkie sponsors then on this episode.
I mean, we'll take
they
what
could
we
prove
can
us
get.
wrong if they're really
Yeah.
confident in the product. Then they'll be sending them over right now.
Send us a Twinkie. We will review it live on podcast.
This isn't going out live.
No, but we'll do it live. We're not
The
going
review.
to do a voiceover of our
You
review.
can't say we will do it live. That's not how television works. That's not how broadcasting works. It was done live. Well, yeah, everything. At the time it was recorded, there were live things happening.
Yeah.
Other than animation, I suppose.
There's always a delay, right? And nothing's ever really live, so it's only
Well, I mean,
just stretching
in
the credibility.
In life, that's true.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Like, light takes time, sound takes time to travel. Like,
So how much latency in your broadcast does there have to be for it to no longer be live? Then?
that's what I'm getting at. That's an important question, whether I need
Well,
to
so
pay
it's
for a
interesting,
BBC
so, like-
license or not.
if you're watching over the air, so like a signal that is sent out over radio towers, or if you're watching it via a satellite feed, or if you're watching it via the internet. Like, which one of those is like? Obviously, the over-the-air one is usually the first to arrive because the other ones have got to be encoded just extrally. That's a word.
I just assumed that as well as any processing time to get the signal sent out, they also built in a little delay for themselves in case someone accidentally shoots themselves in the face, so that they can turn it off. Maybe do they
People
have
are
such a
always
delay?
doing. It's just
Yeah.
they really should get some warning labels on those things.
I mean, there is a lot of that in properly live stuff. Like, they will have a sensor delay so they can beep stuff if somebody gets a bit too.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean that's already not live. We can claim live. We can.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. We can justify that.
If you were watching this on Mars, it would be live.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go then. So we do
So
this,
an
Twinkie.
education, yeah, we do need an education. That's clear.
What do you mean?
Well, like go on then. Right, let's start with like today's education system in
Current times.
current
Or-
times.
Are we talking how it was 18 months ago?
Well, I've got it. I've got on my list today, as we understand it, to caveat it nicely. But then I've got the back in my day. Now, how does it differ today?
No, but currently education is in a very different format to how it has been for the last even
pre-COVID.
10, 20 years, because of the whole. We're recording this in 2022. Just to give you a bit of a buffer there for editing.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
But it's gonna have to come out at exactly.
Published these exactly a year after they were recorded.
But yeah, like, the pandemic has changed the way education has happened. Whether it's affected the quality, no idea, or the teaching subjects or matter or whatever you want to call it. Subject matter, that's the one.
From what I've seen with educating one of the kids.
The one I don't care about. Fend for yourself.
She's too young. I know everything is an education. It's that's how you use sellotape. That's still all education stuff. But from one of them being at home and doing homeschooling with like the Zoom lessons and things like that, which during this, what are we in, lockdown 3? Is it they're calling it now? I don't really know.
Yeah, I think
Where
it's
one
true.
ended and
Lockdown
where one
harder
began.
or something.
Lockdown harder. Yeah. They came out with more of these online class things that they could join for half an hour, and they're sending work home, and they've got this app thing where they can submit things back to the teacher and show pictures of what they're doing. I mean, she's at the young end of the school, so it's not like she has coursework and exam results and things, so I can't speak from that perspective, but it's been pretty good. It's been more effort for us, obviously, but it's been pretty good. And the thing that I've kind of thought and noticed is that there's a bigger spread between the kids now in her class.
In terms of ability.
Yeah, because there's some. I mean, like with us, we've managed to do quite a lot with her and push things a little bit further because she's interested and she wants and she enjoys seeing progress and doing stuff. So we've done more with her. But there'll be others that have struggled or can't do it or whatever, so the kids are a bit further behind, and I'm sure you'll get the few that just can't be bothered. But given the benefit of the doubt, not everybody can do it. So there's a bigger spread in their age range, because I remember when they went back to school after lockdown 1 or something like that, they were saying now there's the abilities are so wide ranging, it's going to be very difficult because they're going to have to try and bring some up, but not bore the ones at the top end and bring them down, and so
That's so difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I scribbled down a thing that maybe we'll get back to. I was thinking about sets for different things and whether they're a good idea. It's going to be kind of like that. They come back and it seems really harsh to the kids who've progressed well, that they're going to be held back while everyone else catches up. I mean, realistically, that's what's going to happen, because what else can they do with it? They can't just spawn another 100,000 teachers to split everyone into sets of different abilities. So they just, and even if they could, maybe it's not a good idea. I always felt like it was better, but maybe you feel that way. Maybe there's an argument that people are. I think it drags everyone towards the middle if you have everyone in one group, which is good if you're below the middle, and not too bad if you're in the middle, but not so good if you're above the middle.
I think those at the top, though, will always be there in terms of academic results, because those are the people that either know it and it's all very natural, or they're the ones that love to study and work and get those high marks. So I think there'll always be that high end stuff. I think it's the bit between that and the middle that will suffer in terms of their learning. And then the people at the bottom who aren't getting. I'm saying this like being at the bottom is a bad thing or whatever, but it's not. Like, it's just people have different aptitudes in different things, and there'll always be subjects where people excel and others don't, and vice versa. Like, but it's hard to address a class of 30 and meet every child's needs with the current system, I think.
Like, what I think we're going to get to in this kind of discussion is, what are those needs? Because, like, if the needs are set that they should achieve a certain range of exam results for these certain discrete subjects, is that a good need to aim for? Like, because one of the things that I can't get over is a lot of education stuff that I see is, here's the curriculum, because this is the stuff that's going to be tested. Memorize it, put it on the exam paper, got your mark, there you go.
Yep.
And there's loads of stuff where I can cram for an exam, and then I can forget it 2 paces outside the exam room.
Yep.
So, what then? But then there's other stuff where if I'm genuinely interested in it, I'll investigate it to the nth degree.
Mm-hmm.
And it sticks with me because I've followed my own interests. And I know that's a very individual thing. I'm not going to say everybody's like that, and some people won't have those interests. And I'm not saying all my interests are useful from a societal point of view either. There's a few things I've learned that would add nothing to society, but hey,
that might be kind of encouraged by the current situation, at least for you, where you're interested and you got some time that you can, with your kids, you can help them look at things that are more off syllabus just because it's interesting to them, on a more one-on-one education. It might be quite nice that parents are more involved. I mean, yeah, like we've said, there's going to be a good spread of how involved the parents are and want to be and can be, but it could be a good thing. It could be that part of a kid's education to encourage parents, even if it was like, you do Fridays from home or something. That might be interesting in the future if they did something that was really positively encouraging parents to be more active.
Yeah.
I see stories from time to time where it's a parent has said something like, "Why didn't they teach the kid that?" Whatever that might be, and it's not always things that I think the school should be teaching. I don't know quite what I think the schools should be teaching. Maybe we'll get onto that, but there are some things that, well, assuming they can't teach everything, there are some things that maybe aren't the priority.
But that's something that you've come to realise as well. Like, you see comments on social media from other parents knocking the school system during pandemic, like lockdown and this, that, and t'other. And you can obviously see that there's varying views from parents. There are some that believe education should be completely handled by the school, and that is what you're there for, and I should have no there's no responsibility on me whatsoever to do any of this. So it's, you should be teaching my kid this, you should be, and then there's a few others that's like, right, well, we need to fill in some of these gaps, and like, okay, you should probably be able to do additions up to 20 or that kind of thing. So let's do a few, and probably you should be able to tell the time, so let's do that. Be useful for you to be able to tell the time. So you get the different attitudes and everything. But again, then I guess the fear is that there will be a bigger percentage of the population that are just completely left behind without any education at all. Then what happens?
Yeah, how do you pick up? I mean, I guess it's true for all of us that you could read and write and do basic maths by the time you went to school in the first place, but I'm sure that's not universally true.
No.
And yeah, so for some kids, they're just going to be so far behind that really they almost need to be in different years by the time they go back. Some kids pretty much just need to do the year again, and some kids that'd be a total waste of time. That'd leave a really weird class size, perhaps. Maybe it wouldn't, because it might leave you some classes too big. And that's quite a hard thing to judge. How do you even do that? I'm maybe going to argue in favour of exams, not in this context, but later maybe I'll argue that they've got some use. But I don't know how you go about doing that. You need the teacher to assess them, really. Maybe there'll be an opportunity before the end of this year to have some time with the kids and see if they're fit to move up. That's going to be so controversial. If you did that, I mean, I don't believe that'll happen because so many parents would be so unhappy, even if the right thing was to move up, and that set you in a funny situation for the rest of your education. Maybe you're kind of on track, aren't you? So actually, you're with your year or you're older. I think that's better than being moved up and being a year younger than everyone, especially when you get into secondary school. I think it's better to be the same age or older. It's probably better.
So move ahead the ones that are ahead, and
yeah, so the ones that are ahead actually carry on with their normal progression, and the ones that are behind stay back a year.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're basing it purely on academic progress, this schooling system. So somebody could, in theory, stay in the same year for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of interesting. It makes some logical sense to me. I see all sorts of practical problems, especially having said that. When you get into senior school, I think being a year younger is probably not ideal. But being significantly older, I think, would also not be ideal.
No.
Yeah.
But it also comes back to what Jack was saying. It's like, what are the goals of it? Like, what level of skill in each of the subjects do you need to progress? So say if someone was exceptional at maths, but terrible at geography.
Yeah.
Do they get held back in one subject but progress in another? Or is it an average of their abilities across the whole?
Does it even make sense to have years? What you do is you join the school and you have a form that's a mix of a spread of the year. So a bit like the tables we had at school. So you have a spread. You have some So you have a little community, your little group, and you go to your classes. And you always start in the beginner class, but then you move up when you're ready to move up. That's maybe slightly interesting. It doesn't work in full. I mean, apart from anything else, they have like regular syllabus. So this year you learn that, and next year you learn that, and the other year. So if you kind of mess that up, that feels like it would be very hard to manage in practice.
I think there's a bit of a conflict of interest, really, because from an education point of view, if you had, say, the maths curriculum, like during your school time, we need to take you from wherever you start up to this certain level. You have to be able to do these particular things within that subject. So, and if you're a fast learner and you can learn that one, then you can progress up that curriculum and that kind of thing. So you could stream it that way. But the conflict comes with like the social side of things, because having kids that little mixing with older ones, and in the first few years there's quite a big gap. I mean, like at our age, there's not a huge gap between someone that's 35 and 40
Yeah.
in terms of social, but 5 years down at that end of the school is quite a long way. So,
but would it help with social development to interact more with a wider variety of age ranges? Putting aside the how do you teach a 5-year-old and how do you teach a 10-year-old, just the social development side of it, seeing how the older children behave and everything like that. Yes, there are plenty of opportunities open for abuse. Like, the little kid's in my group, he can go and fetch me my scissors and fetch me my drink and whatever. But if it worked, it would be really good to have the kids interacting with older kids and the older kids helping the younger kids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Maybe that's something that we had at school anyway, like the tables where you sat with the mix. I thought that was a really good idea.
Yeah.
What's that?
I think.
What was that?
You know, at lunchtimes you sat on a table, you were assigned a table, and then you didn't sit with your friends, you sat with. You know, you always had a sixth former, and then you had a spread from lower down. Yeah. And so you were kind of like their go-to if they needed a person, or I mean, at least they knew an older person if they needed something. I think it's a nice idea.
But it also helps with the community side of things. Of like, it's not just our year, their year, the other years. It's we interact with people from other years regularly and stuff. So you are helping build some sort of community within the school. It's not just your year group that you interact with.
Where did the school system come from in the first place? What was the initial?
I don't know.
It seems quite a natural thing that you know, if you imagine a small village with a few kids, you'd be thinking, well, let's share the teaching work. And I mean, maybe one person wouldn't do it all, but you'd be like, well, all right, these 3 kids are about the same age. You'll all go to so and so's mum today, and she'll teach you. I can see how it could come
was
about
it
like
teaching then, or was it like you go back a couple of thousand years? Were they actually doing teaching in the way we look at it now, where someone stands at the front and says, "This is how you do maths," or was it, "We'll look after the kids this day, you look after the kids that day. This is what we're doing today, kids. You can help me with this. You can help me with that," and learning by doing rather than sitting and learning by rote.
Maybe so, yeah.
And then it probably did evolve to, we'll set up a building to house the children in the day so everyone else can work.
Not having them in my house anymore.
Yeah. I mean, you get to the Industrial Revolution and things like that, where parents have suddenly having to work 16 hours a day.
So the kids were employed as well.
Yeah, the kids were working as well. I mean, what's the minimum age to leave school now? 18 or?
I think it is 16 still.
You have to do an apprenticeship or something after.
Yeah,
after 16,
I think you can join them. You can join the military at 16, or is that still 17?
I don't know. I have a feeling you have to do something sort of formally organised until you're 18, but that might be not school. That might be like the military or an apprenticeship or something like that. That's pretty old, isn't it? I know my nana, she left, I think, when she was 13. That feels pretty young. I mean,
yeah. Military is 16.
And I mean, she's well, it would have been just after the Second World War that she was in school, or that kind of time. Oh no, before that. During the Second World War, she would have been schoolish age.
Yeah.
What if the schools, like, if we did it, it was done like on merit kind of thing, rather than trying to get a whole class of kids to an acceptable average level, that looks good on the mark sheet or the what's the word? The inspector's report thing.
Ofsted.
Yeah,
Ofsted,
report.
that's the one. That looks good on the Ofsted. What if it's like it was like a like bees, there's a talent identification things like right, you're more into the maths and stuff. You can drop you can drop home ec. You can drop
It's a
geography.
really interesting situation, isn't it? 'Cause you want people to understand as much as possible about their lives and the universe that they live in. But some people don't want to know that. Should we force them to do that?
I don't think you can.
I feel like
Just
you
sit
want to
in the
know a
class.
minimum amount of at least maths and English. You need a minimum of.
See, like, I can see how maths and English can be useful in real world situations, like for everybody involved. Like maths, to a certain extent, though, it's like most people in their day-to-day lives will not need trigonometry. They'll not need to know how to differentiate and integrate equations, quadratics. No.
What they should do in maths is a bit more statistics. It wouldn't need to be highly numerate statistics, but the general ideas, I think that'd be really useful for everybody.
Yeah, and then
Just understanding headlines. I mean.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's a thing. And then you've got things like, how do you do your budgeting for your house?
Yeah, things like percentages they just come up a lot in life.
Yeah, like your bill will increase by 3% next year. Yeah. What does that actually mean to somebody? Like, how many pounds a month is that going to cost them extra and things like that? Like, we are taught all of these things in school, but it's never applied to those situations. It's like, this is how you work out a fraction of a percent or whatever. This is how you convert this into that, but it's never applied to a real world situation. It's always Fred goes to the supermarket and buys 200 watermelons and 3 peaches. What percentage of his shopping was red?
Oh, you took that paper too, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a great one.
That's just applying for a bank loan, that.
Yeah. But yeah, like mortgages. Like, why is that not something that's in at the heart of a maths curriculum? Like, so understanding your mortgage repayments.
I'd like to maybe, I don't know, I'd like to keep maths as a subject. I don't know, this is difficult. I wanted to keep maths as a bit purer as maths, and to have this like applied maths subject maybe that teaches you the crap. I wouldn't.
Mundane maths.
Mundane maths, teaches you how to apply abstract concepts to real life situations in case you can't work it out for yourself. But I think that'd be really useful, because things like mortgages, they're complicated.
Yeah.
In it's a combination of English and maths presented in a way that is almost deliberately confusing.
Yeah. And then you got these like payday loans and stuff like this that have these massive percentage
definitely deliberately misleading.
Exactly, yeah. So, but people should be taught to be able to understand these things and have it explained to them, not just here is some abstract concepts, apply them yourselves. Because as we've said, like, some people get maths, some people understand it, some people live it, some people don't get it. But if people can explain it to them and how it will actually affect them in their lives, and not just answer these questions in this exam, get a C.
I had to do basic trigonometry to work out the dimensions for part of my pizza oven, and oh my god, it's been a while.
Yep.
Real life stuff.
Sockatoa. Now, which one's the Jason? Which one's the opposite?
And then you can't find a calculator because you don't have a calculator in real life, or at least I do, but I can't find it. My TI-83 Plus is still around here somewhere. But I couldn't find it in any case. It didn't need batteries. So you're using your phone, and calculators on phones are horrible for doing anything other than basic arithmetic. They're just horrible.
Well, one upside of the current pandemic education system is that currently I am learning my times tables with my daughter. I thought it's probably about time I learnt them. You reach a certain age of over 30, not quite 40. Yeah, they could be useful.
See, now that's really interesting. Like, yeah, times tables, but things in English that I don't think we were ever taught.
Yes, thank you.
I'm fairly sure I was never taught some of the stuff that I know that 5-year-old and 6-year-olds are doing.
Yeah, grammar.
Yeah, and like phonics is my biggest weird thing at the moment. I can understand why they're using it, but I also know the English language is just so weird that it doesn't work most of the time.
Yeah.
Like, this is how you say these letters together. This is how you use your mouth to make these sounds when these letters are presented to you. Apart from, wound and wound, and right, and right.
Wind and wind.
Yeah.
It's just, listening to you say it now, it's just made perfect sense. I can't spell, and although I can read, I often find that when I come to say a word, I don't really know how it's said out loud because I've read it, and I know the letters and I know the shapes, and I can come up with like a dozen different pronunciations for this word, but I'm not really sure how people say it because what I've done is I've
you
read
should
it,
look
and
into
we did
the
phonics at school.
phonetic alphabet. What is it? There's a pronunciation alphabet basically. So when you go to a Wikipedia article and it's got the extra bit after the main word, that's how you're meant to say it, and all of those are unique sounds. So if you learn that, you can then pronounce everything.
There's a command line utility that'll tell you the. It'll so if you give it a word, it'll give you the sort of pronunciation. It'll give you the phonetic alphabet version of it. And I once wrote a thing that was trying to be really helpful, and so if someone spelt it wrong, I was using the phonetics to work out what they meant. I don't remember what it was supposed to do. It was just the most helpful command line thing ever.
My daughter's found that because she does phonics at the moment, and they've been doing it, and she can read now. It's. I was quite surprised how quickly she could read.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's not daft by any stretch, but I was still surprised that after doing this year or so of phonics, she can read now, and it is good. And she just get caught out by, like we all do, get those words that don't quite fit phonetically. But I think it's just like a starting point to kind of get them into the words and recognizing the shapes. But as you say, there's some stuff that she's coming out with that I have no idea what she's talking about. Like, she came out with that's a split digraph.
Oh yeah, I've heard that one.
It's like, what? Like, it's magic E. The magic E that stretches the vowel.
Yep.
That's the split digraph.
And you're going, what? What now?
Okay. You're 6. You're 6, right? Right. And you're supposed to know what 2A sentences are. Well, it's a sentence with 2 adjectives, is what we found out.
What is an adjective, Matt?
Yeah, one of them.
Yep.
It describes a noun.
What's a noun?
Thing.
What's a thing? Oh no, wait. I think I know that one.
There's some ridiculous ones. I have no idea what they are. Like, I'm reading a book at the moment. It's about the language and like this style of language and how things are put together and why some stuff is deliberately. Why is it written badly? Why is so much writing so bad? And he's quite entertaining the way he does it, and he's got loads of examples. And he reads this one example of this label that's on the side of like a portable heater, little generator heater kind of thing, and it's like it's got loads of like when you read something, it's just lots of fluff words and extra bits and bobs and things, and it's like use of this product indoors may have adverse effects and all this. There's a big list, and everyone's like, yeah. And they found out that loads of people were dying of carbon monoxide poisoning, like running this generator heater thing indoors. So they changed the label. And so they went from that fluffy label to using this indoors can kill you in minutes. It's like, that's a bit more direct, and it's actionable language that you understand.
Yeah.
That's another interesting one because I wasn't good at English at school. I don't feel that it was well taught to me either. With
Yeah,
with
no,
the
I agree.
1 year of Miss Brown, I don't think that English was well taught. I don't remember doing anything in junior. I moved junior schools once. I feel like maybe they did it the year after in the first school, the year after I left, and the year before I arrived at the next school. Maybe that's what happened. But it turns out I've read a couple of books, not quite like that one, but books on rhetoric and books on English language and that sort of thing, and I really like it now, and it's really interesting. And I think I could have been interested in it at school with the right kind of nudging and poking and the right kind of thing. I mean, telling me the damn rules would have been a start.
Well, yeah, but the trouble is the English language. It's not German.
Yeah.
It has some German in it, but it's not German, so like it doesn't have rigorous rules for everything. It's like, for the most part, we'll do this, but it's not really that important. So most of the time, we ignore it.
Yeah, I don't know the right way. I feel like it could be better than it is, but I don't know what the right way is.
Well, I'm fairly sure that most 13-year-olds understand the English language better than I do in terms of its makeup and how to process it properly. I'm fairly confident in using it, but I couldn't explain to you why I use it in the way I do.
There are what they call style guides you can get for writing, and different publications and things for like newspapers. They have their own style guide, or they're based on style guides. And Chicago Manual Style, yeah, those kind of things. Oh, the famous one is one called Strunk and White, the two authors of it, I think. But the one I'm reading at the moment, this A Sense of Style by Steven Pinker, he's saying that some of the older style guides, they're a bit outdated, and they try and some of the rules that they come up with are a bit arbitrary based on the prejudice of the author. Mm-hmm. Like they have their own kind of grammar Nazi-ish peeves about certain things, so they put it into a. Oh yeah, that's the one I'm reading.
I've not read it yet. I bought it. I thought it sounded good.
It is quite good. It's entertaining. So he's got a bit more of a seems like a better approach to it. His rules that make sense. But like there's rules like only use active sentences. That's where like
yeah,
that's where like there's an actor doing something to an object. It goes in that order, rather than here's the object having an action done to it by an actor. You know what I mean? It's like rather than saying it was found that the ball was red by Jeff. It's Jeff found a red ball. It says do more active sentences. But in that book, he says, yeah, in general, it sounds better, but there's also a use for passive sentences. It reveals things in the right order to you sometimes. So he says, don't stick to that rule all the time if you know why you're using it that way. So you can learn it, but again, this isn't in school, this stuff, I don't think.
Well, it's like we were always taught not to start a sentence with because, and, or but, or something like that. Like,
yeah. Conjunctions.
Why? Yes, I've heard that word before.
It's funny that I mean a lot of time has passed and I don't do a whole lot of maths, but I was reasonably good at maths, and I'm still reasonably confident if I had to pick something up I could. But English, I was always bad at it, and I don't know why. I always kind of felt like I was worse than other people. And I don't know where anyone learned it, unless it was outside school. But I mean, that will be true for some. I mean, I didn't read much as a kid, which I'm sure doesn't help.
You see, I did, and I still felt like that.
Yeah. Maybe everybody feels like that.
No,
people
no,
are actually good.
I'm fairly sure there are some people who were like, "Oh, I love English. I'm great at it."
I felt like that in every single subject. Like, what the hell? Yeah.
English was one of the ones I liked. For English exams, I always felt like you can't revise for English, so that was like a freebie the night before English. You have to revise for that. But it went like this. You either can't revise for it or you don't need to revise for it. There's very little in between.
A very like fatalist approach to it. Well, whatever will be, will be. One of the things I found, like, I didn't really like English at school. I'm really interested in it now. But especially when they were going through like the poems of things, it was like, oh, the author means this by what was said here. I was like, it all seemed very woolly.
Yep.
To me, and I was like, really? Did they write this stuff down? You know, have they written like
No.
what they thought here? And like some cases they have like there's like their notebooks and diaries and things that they've published, and yeah, so I always found it very, very woolly, and I was like, what is this? This is just a joke. so I pretty much switched off right there. But now I kind of see a bit more about it, and I don't know whether that's just a maturity thing. Like you have, particularly with like. Sorry, I've just disturbed the house, knocking what I knocked over. Like a maturity thing, like particularly with poetry, there's some concepts and things that they're putting across there that I don't know, a 13, 14-year-old just won't grasp.
Yeah, I can see some of that.
I don't know whether that kind of stuff resonates. I think Matt said it earlier, is it like the stuff that you were interested in, you kind of took to, and the stuff that you weren't, you didn't, and now you're interested in it, you're really trying to work out what it's all about, and you...
Yeah, I do think that I don't know. I've not matured a whole lot. And I think me then would have been interested in similar things to me now, but this first book that got me into it was a book on rhetoric that I just found really interesting. I think I would have found that interesting way back then as well, if anyone had ever pointed that to me as another way of looking at language and another thing that almost as a separate subject to English, but or as part of English could have been taught.
One thing that really annoyed me with English was when you were asked to write your opinion on something or how it made you feel or whatever like that, and they marked you down. It's like, I've written what I felt, what I experienced when I read this, and you're telling me that this bit's wrong and that bit's wrong. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do?
Submit to the thought police. You must be moulded in our image. Have the right opinion, for goodness sake.
Like, you've written this. Did you mean that? No, I didn't, Clippy. Shut up.
If they'd spent some time doing like a history of English, and this is what people think about this, and read this and read what people who, by some value, know about it, think about it, and then I could have maybe formed my own opinions based on this pre-thought police.
I think, right, I'm going to float this idea, see if it matches anything that you're thinking. Because what I think is, when I could see how something is applied, like and here's a use for it, I considered it more interesting and more useful. It's like I can see that now, like, and subjects like maths and physics and design and that kind of stuff, which I took to, it was already built in to the subject of this has a use, and this is what it is, and this is how it's applied. You know, to like find the area under a graph, which is a certain function. You know, you integrate that function. Okay, and that will
look at him remembering it.
Hey,
He knew which one it was.
Yeah, I married an accountant, so I don't have to do any of this finance and mortgage stuff. But other stuff like English, it's not hugely clear from the syllabus how this is applied and how this is useful, which is where I think like the rhetoric thing you're talking about, I got interested in the rhetoric books as well, because it's applied. It's like, there are these types of arguments, and this is how you would appeal to that particular and this is how it's been done politically and
well, this is like, is this still English that we're as a subject, or is this now applied English? Like we had the maths and the applied maths.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I like that idea.
Do we have an English where you learn the language, you learn about nouns and adjectives and how to conjugate a verb, which I'm fairly sure is not a dirty act.
Depends if it gave consent.
And then you have this applied English of like, this is how you can write a better CV, or how you can be a more persuasive arguer in a business meeting or something like that. This is how you could become an author. This is how you become a journalist, or whatever.
I kind of feel like the conjugating the verb or whatever was what should have been taught in English.
Yes.
And English lit was the subject that I just shouldn't have done. And this applied English would have been really useful. That would have been the mirror for me of the applied maths. I probably wouldn't have done. I would have just liked the maths. But I can see the applied maths would be really useful to people who didn't like the maths so much. And I think this applied English and English just I've kind of split English into three because I'm still interested.
Yeah, like some people do like to dig deep into books and poems and look at what the motivations were and everything like that. That's great, but
yeah, that's the part I'd like to drop out. I'd like to do that at my leisure if I so choose, and keep my opinions to myself.
Kind of a pick and mix approach then too.
Yeah. I've definitely split this into modules or something.
Don't they have something like that in America? Like they have to pick up a certain number of points.
What do points mean?
Yeah. They have to have a certain number of points at the end of a year or a semester, and they can...
Yeah, but I don't know how modular it is in that respect. Like whether you can pick up a semester of English language formation, or whether it's you have to do a semester of English in general.
Yeah. Mm. So what about other subjects then? Because we've done like maths and English and sciencey stuff. Like what about the geographies or the?
Well, geography can be very useful. Like you're looking to buy a house.
Have you got something on your mind right at the moment? There's a lot of mortgages and house buying going on here.
I mean, it's something that's I haven't even looked at a mortgage. Don't want one.
Flex.
But like, yeah.
Biggest flex of all.
I am not in debt.
I just bought a house,
My credit score is shit. I'm not in debt.
You don't need credit. That's why
exactly. Yeah, I've never had a credit card. Never been in debt to any organisation or business.
Doesn't exist.
I am an enigma wrapped in a codex. But you're looking at buying a house. Do you need to understand floodplains? Do you need to understand buying a house that was on a marshland, liable to subsidence, and things like that?
In about 30 years' time, this house may be consumed by an oxbow lake.
Well, exactly, yeah.
There it is.
And if you're in your 20s and thinking about the future, that is something that I need to sell this house in the next 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
I guess maybe we touched on whether it should teach you, whether an education should teach you life skills, and we kind of said yes without. I don't know. I'm now thinking that there's more to it than that, though, right? I don't really just want to learn life skills.
No. Like, because otherwise
it was a good subject for me. I liked them, but
we would never have people that go on to study the world around us if it was just life skills.
So how about this? Should your education be? I was thinking it to begin with. It should be really general for as long as possible, and then I was kind of thinking, actually, well, basically, I just want to learn maths and English and do colouring in junior school because maths and English are just really the building blocks to be able to learn everything else. I mean, then there's some missed opportunity because you're supposedly better at learning other languages when you're younger, or at least there's something there. I don't know if that's rooted in when you're really, really young. Well, I mean, like a newborn. I think your brain goes through like a pruning process, and you stop recognizing sounds so well for like phonetics that aren't in the alphabet that you're hearing. I don't know if that's where that comes from, or if young children are really better at learning languages.
I don't know, but like,
suppose that they are.
They've got nothing to unlearn for a start.
Yeah.
So, like, if we want to learn another language, we have all these preconceived notions about how language is formed. Like, we've been speaking English for 30 years. To suddenly then have to learn another way of speaking and forming sentences, different order of words. So, like, going back to Jack's sentence thing where the red ball was found by Fred, or Fred found the red ball, different languages would say that in different orders, but the meanings would be the same.
And I've noticed that people who know another language well, they also tend to know grammar well.
Yeah.
Because I think, like you said, in German perhaps is a good language to learn because it has such a strict structure. Then maybe that's a really useful thing. And to learn a different way of thinking, even different like pictographs or whatever they call whatever they call that. I'm going to call them a pictograph.
Although, like the way, because I've tried learning a language since like finishing school. I was interested in learning Norwegian, and I went heavily into doing that. I just like the way it sounds. It's all like hoo-de-hoo-de-doo-de-doo. It's got a nice rhythm to it, and it's very bubbly and bobbly. I just liked it. So I was trying to do it, and there's a free online service called Duolingo, Duo Lingo. It's really, it's really good. I was like, it's like crowdsourced, isn't it? All the language and stuff, and the way that does it, I found really, really stuck. I found it really, really easy. And the way we learnt like French at school was the language of choice. Not that you had a choice of one. You could eventually learn German, couldn't you? They did introduce Spanish, I think, at some point, but that was past.
Yeah, it was a weird, like, some people already knew Spanish, so they let them do Spanish. I don't remember how it happened.
But that way of, like, here's how the grammar works, here's the vocab, memorize the vocab, like, and then apply it into, and it was just the similar kind of learn it, here's the list, learn the list, and stuff, which didn't stick with me, whereas this Duolingo way was like, it says it does it like the Rosetta Stone paid software stuff, does it? Like, you're just exposed to the language. There's nothing's written in English. It's here's some pictures, and you click on the one that is, the boy or the girl, and then it starts using it all in sentences, and you realise, oh, it's not always like the same word in front of boy. It's not always the boy. It's a boy or one boy or and you kind of piece it together that way. And it kind of sticks and it kind of works. So I don't know if kids are better at learning because, from being born to talking, it's still like a couple of years for making sense.
But if you're born into
language, though,
if you're born into a bilingual family, so your parents speak both languages, fluently, you'll pick them both up.
It does make intuitive sense what you're saying, though. I mean, that's how you learn languages. You see a thing, and you hear the word for it, or you see the word written down. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought about learning a language. I like the idea of memory palaces, and I think it's worth pursuing. But I've never pursued it very far. But my idea for learning a language was to just brute force like 10,000 words.
So I'm fairly sure someone won a Scrabble competition in a language that they did not know. They just learned their dictionary of that language.
Yep. it was something like maybe Japanese, or a language that has quite a small vocabulary, and they just learned the words. I didn't know what they meant. It's amazing. I like that.
So why don't they do it Duolingo way at school then for learning languages?
It's probably more intensive in terms of one-on-oneness. Because you could have 30 kids staring at a screen going, Lagar. That's station, isn't it?
Train station. Yeah.
Yep. Un elephant. But if you've got 30 kids doing it, not all of them have to say it. Like, it could just be 15 of them, and the teacher will struggle to notice if someone opens their mouth at the same time as the other people. Like, they can't have their eyes on all of them to make sure that they are doing the work.
No. But, I mean, you're still going to have a system of assessment.
Why?
Well, to see that level, see where they are, if there's any falling behind.
I think I'm going to argue for exams now because I like them.
Well, go and sit one.
My passport to success exams.
I do think there's some value in measuring. I mean, to measure a school, to tell how a school's doing. I don't know how you do that if you don't examine that the kids have learnt something, and sort of consistency that people are progressing. I don't like the idea, like in junior school, the exams were exams to test the school. They weren't exams to test the kids. I get the impression that some kids do get stressed about them, and maybe that's not always the way to communicate it.
We had a very weird experience of school compared to 90% of the kids in the UK.
I went to a normal junior school, so I.
Because I never did SATs, and I know a lot of kids get quite uppity and tight and anxious about SATs.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking of. So I did SATs, but it was very clear to me that they were an exam.
Yes, but Matt, you were an old man when you were 5.
And to be fair, both my parents are junior school teachers, so I mean they were. Yeah, so I didn't have I didn't have a normal perspective, a common perspective, I guess, on it. But
I did SATs, but I don't remember them as being anything. Like, it wasn't too stressful. Like, the only one I do remember one SAT session, and I must have been in like year 1 or 2. Right, it's this very clear memory of just being sitting at this little table with a couple of the other kids and the teacher, and it was like they were just asking you questions like, can you explain? And I remember the questions like it was about a shadow, like where's the shadow? And it's like, oh, there's the shadow in this picture. Like, why is there a shadow there? Like, explain why there's a shadow. It's like, well, where the sun can't get to. what are you asking me here? Where's the trick? And that kind, and like, which glass has got the most water in it? And there's like a tall, thin one, and then there's a shallow, wide one. That kind of thing. I remember those kind of things. But any other year, I have no idea what the SATs.
I remember 2 SATs questions. One of them I thought about earlier when Ryan was talking about phonetics, because it was a similar thing. We were all sat around in a little group, and it was the English one. And they sent you just sat there, and it was like an elimination thing. They kept asking questions, and if it got to a bit that you couldn't answer more, then you left, and that was like you'd reach your level, and then they just carried on with the rest. But I remember getting sent away. It was sheep. I'm pretty sure they asked me to spell sheep, and I spelled it SHEAP. That's a perfectly legitimate way to make the word sheep. I'm pretty sure that's like, where I got like eliminated on. Yeah, I mean that would sound like sheep if I saw that written down. That's I'm pretty sure that's as far as I got.
Yeah, I can remember one spelling test because I spelt what, W-O-T. I can't remember any other spelling test or any other test I ever had, but I remember that one. Because I came out of it thinking, why the hell did I spell it what?
For 1 year in junior school, I got every single spelling right for the entire year.
Did you get a sticker?
I don't know what I got. I just I used to, but they told you the words. I mean, well, I guess that's how Splinter Cell. It's not,
Spell!
I mean,
It's
before
down
the
queue.
test, they told you what the words were going to be. They gave you like, I don't know, they gave you 20 words and asked you 10 of them or something. So like, I mean, you just learned the 20 words, but I just used to read them in the car. When my dad dropped me off at school, I'd read them and then walk in, and then we'd have the test, and I'd write them, and then no idea, couldn't spell them now.
Oh, man.
Spell diarrhea. Oh.
That was my password at school more than once, but
Spell diaphragm.
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 I'm still not sure about sheep.
But in general, they just look
Generally,
shifty.
What about more than one?
Also a problem. That's when you spell it EA.
What about fishes?
What about them?
It's one fish.
Yep.
You can have many fish.
Thank you.
Can't you have many fishes?
You can have bread and fishes.
You can have fish and chips.
Fishers.
Yeah, you can have the people that do the fishing, plural of them.
Yeah. Oh. And the other one I had to look up the other day was story and stories. Is there a difference between like multiple stories in a book and multiple stories of a building?
Ooh.
And there is in English. There isn't in American English.
yes, and YS.
Stories in a book. STORIES.
Stories of a building.
STOREYS.
Oh.
Oh,
Okay.
I
yeah.
would not have got that right.
No, I didn't either. That's why I had to look it up.
I still don't really believe you.
I think you're lying.
Oh, there you go.
I think you believe it, so it's not really right.
I believe you believe you're right. Yes.
And the other thing about exams is, I mean, do you need something at the end of school? I mean, assuming there are limited places at wherever you go next, do you need to somehow rank people? I find that really difficult because it's in some ways I think yes. I don't know how you do it otherwise.
Well, it's like people that do apprenticeships and people that go to university ending up in the same job.
Yeah.
Which was the better course of learning?
The one that's not 30 grand behind already.
Well, I mean, there is that the person doing an apprenticeship has been earning for the past 5 years and can now afford to buy a house, whereas the person that's been in university... Yeah, because I am fresh out of school currently.
And you've been working for the last 5 years.
Yeah, that's what's helped me buy the house. Yeah.
Do either of you think that, like the apprenticeship route, and I used apprenticeship like in a broad sense, you know, going into a profession kind of thing. Do you think it was presented as an option when we were at school? At our particular school, was it?
But only because I asked about certain things.
It wasn't hugely.
It wasn't pushed. It wasn't pushed by any means. I think I only found out about it because I asked about certain professions.
Yeah, because to me, I got the distinct impression that their aim was to get a high percentage to universities.
Yeah.
And a high percentage at good universities.
Yeah.
Quote unquote good universities. And I find that really quite annoying because I probably wouldn't have gone that route. I might have. It's 60% maybe I would have gone that route. But
my sister was pressured into applying to Oxford and Cambridge, and she didn't want to go to either of them. And she went to the same school.
I was pressured to not apply.
I was categorically told not to.
Yeah, no, actually was.
I didn't get around to applying while I was still there, so I just applied wherever. But I wasn't given any other choice than.
I deferred my entry. I think. Did I?
I got rejected, so I took whatever I could get after the open the brown envelope.
To be fair, I only wanted to go to one of the universities that I applied to, so I didn't really put any effort into the other. However, 5 is it? You 6?
6 in total.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, happy days.
It was no benefit to me going to university other than, I mean, what I learnt there is no use to my previous or current job. The only thing that it helps with is they only employed people who had gone to university. So, which is wrong. And I think now the apprenticeship route would be more possible. Certainly the place I am now. Oh no, actually I'm wrong because the people there are a lot of students there, but the people come for a year during their student time. They're not straight out of school students. So actually, I don't think even where I am now, I don't think I get to without going to university. I don't think that's right. I don't think there's for most jobs I don't know
for a lot of jobs you don't need a degree.
Yeah.
There are certain areas where a degree is basically essential.
That said, I don't know that even if you learn nothing at all at university, which is close to true for me, I don't know that I'd rather have had 4 more years of work. I mean,
yeah,
it's true. Mm-hmm.
So maybe with that in mind, I could do university a lot different. I could.
It could
I'm going to learn nothing. Yeah, really go for it. Oh, not half-assing it next time.
I'm going to get a second degree.
Ugh.
Oh no, I'm not going to finish this one.
So PhD.
I only fell over the line last time.
Just to put on his CV, gained 1 degree, took 7.
Yeah.
Started 23 degrees, finished 1.
Right. I had a brief glimpse of a concept for a story. I was thinking, I don't know whether it'll turn into anything, but I thought.
Are you still trying to get that package through airport control?
No. That's backburnered at the moment, along with quite a few others. My simulated.
That's one way to smuggle it.
Yeah, my simulated universe story is kind of ballooning at the moment. It's going to be like 10,000 words probably by the time it's.
I think that's more than I've written in the past 15 years.
It's pretty good. That's the final draft. So I'm on draft 3 at the moment. So that's taking up most of my time. But this idea came to me the other day about a future where education, they've basically abolished schools, and their justification is that they found that it was not good for society in general, or binning schools was better for society in general because it allowed the brighter ones to find their way into the subjects that would do them the most good and to excel, and then ultimately add more to society from the discoveries and their innovation and that kind of thing. Whereas they found the school system was just holding them back too much. I mean, there'll be a huge number of people that are really screwed over by that system, but in general, we'd have come up with iPhones much quicker.
I mean, what is the purpose? It's interesting that if you imagine that actually innovations are made by the smartest few percent, then you could make a reasonable argument that actually screwing the people who are below average and doing everything you can for the people who are above average is actually in everyone's interest. That doesn't seem like a very very nice argument, but you could imagine that a logically sound argument could be made.
Yeah.
I'm not planning to try and make it.
No, we're not in charge of any policies or anything.
Fortunately.
It's probably for the best.
But yeah, fortunately for many people.
But I mean, what is the purpose? What are you supposed to come out with at the end? To be fit to go to work, or?
Well, yeah, that's a big question. Is what is the point of the education system? Because currently, it does seem like Jack says to get people towards university.
which itself is very much geared towards jobs. It's not geared towards a kind of universal education.
Yeah.
It's just geared towards exams, and I don't know if any of it's true, but it felt like all our time at school we were always told that the education used to be better. Used to be harder, more rigorous. I mean, like maths papers and things used to be harder, and at university it kind of felt the same as well. It felt like they used to do more. I don't know if that's true or if that's like.
If it is true, do you think it's a function of this? I'm going to say capitalist approach. It's like if we dumb it down so much, we can say that 99% of our students go to the top universities. It's because they accept everybody, and
Well, it could be
all you need is a big
function of
rubber
trying to
stamp.
get more people to go to university. I mean, they targeted 50% at one point. I don't know if they still do, but it could be that that's not the right thing to do. Maybe that's been accepted by trying to make these apprenticeships a bit more available.
Yeah. Thing is, I'm not shocked by that idea. I can see them doing that. When one political party manifestos that we're going to increase university attendance by 50%, and then they drop the entry levels.
Yeah,
like they change nothing but the bar.
Yeah, and I mean, what do you do if universities can take more people? Either they all collude and don't take more people, and they can manage with the funding they have, or as soon as some start to accept more people, then your sort of relative share drops. You have to go with the crowd, don't you? You have to accept more people to keep your. Yeah, that's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we just came so close to me having an idea, and I've forgotten it. I felt it breeze past, and I've had it twice and not quite.
You sure that wasn't the dogs?
Oh, sorry, yeah. I remember now. Oh.
What were we talking about when you had it last?
I don't know. Yeah, so I remember. So it's tied to the idea of is education improving and the motivation of it. In other things in the world, and a bit to exams as well. I mean, you want to educate people, and you want the way you educate people to improve. And from my my outside perspective, it feels like the way the education's done is a matter of sort of policy and trying to win approval rather than because it's proven to be successful. So, I mean, so one argument for exams is to measure an individual and see what they do next, but the other is to measure the school, and as well as that, to measure the trend within the school. So if you could give an equivalently difficult exam every year, and you assume that a large group of kids represents an average the same every year, so then if that's improving, then you'd say the education is improving. People are being better educated. I mean, they're two things that are really hard to fix, but suppose you could, then that's good. But I don't think that's what happens. It feels like you should be trying to iterate. Maybe giving every kid a laptop and them sitting in front of Duolingo is a better way to teach French. But as far as I know, they've never even tried it. And
well, one thing that reminds me of is like in this lockdown homeschooling that we're doing. One of the things that they've been given is these there's this app thing online, times table rock stars, and I think it's something that they can sign up for as a school to gain access to. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
And it looks pretty good. It's like a game kind of thing. You got to answer a certain number, and you've got to get like 20 right within the time frame in order to move up to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just handed over to the kids, here you go. But they're like competing. So like year one's competing against year three, but it's in terms of numbers of questions attempted. That's all. It's not right answers. It's
wrong.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you would game the system immediately, but I know on average.
I just went straight there. Didn't even try.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't design an education system because we would just usurp it all. But that kind of thing, like my eldest, she's really into it. She's interested in it, and like we limit her screen time. and things, right? But you can see the scoreboard. Like all the kids' names are anonymous. It's like profile names are randomly assigned, so you can't tell who's. But you can see there's like one kid that's like answered 3,000 questions or something. You're like, you must be doing nothing else but
Auto clicker.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like we didn't have tablets and iPhone accessible stuff with apps and education things when we were there. So like
we had Microsoft Encarta 95.
I remember that.
It had a maze game. It was a maze, and you got to every intersection and it asked you a history question.
Nice.
I got quite good at that, memorising the answers.
Yeah, well, that's it.
That's what learning is. You thought you were cheating, but this
Damn
is
it!
Bart Simpson walked
They
in
made me
there.
learn! No!
There's a whole different kind of cheating. When I got in the test, the answers were just in my head.
That's not fair, he knew all the answers!
But yeah, but that kind of thing, like you could, like to learn those kind of skills. I mean, there's a difference between like learning the concepts in maths of like integration and stuff, and being able to do your times tables. Like one is a pure memory thing, which will help you do other things further down the line.
Just makes everything else easier, doesn't it? If you're not thinking about the easy bit, it seems like a good idea. I never
5
got past that
sevens.
in English, but yep.
35.
There's
I can do fives easy.
I can
7
do
8s.
56. Yes, I can do 7 times table. It's the only one I learned. That's where I stopped. That's where I started. I can do sevenths as well.
I do nines on my fingers.
I think we have the same book. It's something like Trachtenberg.
Oh yeah, speed system.
Yeah, but it's got some cool stuff about like different ways of learning it. And one of the things it talks about is that had never really twigged to me before. I always kind of thought I was doing sums, like I was working out 5 sevens, but actually I'm not. I just remember it. It never really occurred to me that I don't. You kind of don't do maths like that. You know the answer. Does that make any sense to you? Because he explains it better than I am. But he talked about like there are these steps in the process, but actually once you learn the first and second step, you don't do 2 steps. You go from 1 to 3, like step 1 to 3. So you don't think every process, and you just learn things like that. And like arithmetic, your times tables are just kind of like that, aren't they? You learn them and definitely get out of practice, but
yeah, like there's like an 8-year-old trying to do maths compared to like doing the same problem as us. They will, for the most part, be going through each bit microscopically, trying to answer each bit, whereas we'll just look at it and go, oh, it's that. Like there is some, it's not instinct, it's just learnt.
Yeah,
embedded.
Yeah. But I sort of believe that one of the reasons Katie can't do maths is because she knows the answer, but she doesn't make the
know
leap.
Why?
Yeah, she can't add 7 and 3 to make it simple. It's only slightly true. Yeah, exactly. Like you know that, but you don't really know why you know that. Do you know? It's the big. You know, you can count 7, 8, 9, 10, but you just know the answer, and it's you almost have to take a leap of faith that you know that. It's funny. I think it's a really strange thing.
I mean, I think we're kind of agreeing that there's a level of memory that needs to be, like with any learning, because as you say, that is learning. But there's also the other stuff, like not just learning like your times tables and remembering it and then being able to churn it out, but there's knowing how to answer the question, or there's knowing how to work out what you need to do to answer the question. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Jen's dad, he tutors maths. Like he helps people up with maths and things. And he came up with a game for his classes, and he calls it like the Grand Random Challenge. It's a cool idea. And they're really random questions, and the idea isn't to get the answer. The idea is to work out how you would go about getting the answers. And the kind of things like, given that a tractor trailer can hold 20 cows, how many,
Ducks.
How many ducks could you fit in the boot of your car? That kind of thing. They're really that random.
Yeah.
And there's no way of knowing the right answer, but it's...
That's such a good idea.
There's loads of things like that, gaining the knowledge of how to work out a problem.
Maybe they could have been more explicit about saying, a lot of the stuff you're memorizing, and just really be clear that you're not working this out, you're memorizing it, and to have that other category of problem that I don't remember ever doing, or ever being taught how to think about a problem, how to problem solve. You were just given some problems, and maybe you happened to learn how to solve problems along the way. But
so
it was never taught as a thing, was it?
If we go back to what was it, episode 3, where we did the GCSE physics.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that was episode 3. I don't know if I've published that one. I might have got that lost, because that was a bit embarrassing for some of us.
But so I was helping a friend's child with their physics GCSE mock paper, revision paper, whatever it was. And it was like, this is the question. Blah 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 blah. And they were like, well, how do I solve this? I'm like, well, first of all, you should know that this value is this, because that's something you should just know. And then the rest of it is just putting the numbers into this equation. But how do you know that that's that? Because that's one of the things that you should know as somebody doing GCSE physics. That is one of the values that you should know. Like
gravity is 9.81.
So it was sine or tan of an angle or cos of an angle or something like that. But it was one of the obvious ones, like 40, 30, 45, 30, 90, one of those. It's like you should just know that value is this. And they're like, but I'm like, well, yeah, it's just like one of those things. You can't solve this without knowing that. And there's nowhere else in this paper that tells you that, so therefore it should be one of the values that you just know.
Yeah. I don't think I got to the stage where there were those kind of problem-solving problems until I got to university. Like, doing engineering stuff, they assumed you had all of these different topics. Like, it was, you need to know these things, so here's this problem. And it'd include a bit of structural engineering stuff and a bit of aerodynamics as well, because the structure must fit within the aerodynamics and must support the forces of that kind of thing. So it's like you have to move across between these they're not discrete things anymore. It all kind of works together. And some of the problems were really quite tricky, and it was because to design like an aeroplane, you need to know how heavy it is to know how big the wings are. But if you make the wings bigger, it makes it heavier.
Yeah.
And if you make it bigger, they got more drag, so you need bigger engines, which makes it heavier, and you'll need more structure. So it keeps going around and around. Yeah. And you're like, well, hang on, where do I even start? Like, no, it's iterative. You just start at a generalized thing. So, and one of the questions in one of the tutors gave to us was, how much weight to the airframe does the paint add?
Depends how big the airframe is.
Yeah, no, it's like, no, calculate it. What's the weight of paint? How? What the hell?
So it's like bike frames. You can add an extra couple of 100 grams by painting it.
Yeah.
Like another thing that I think is really hard to teach, but is really important, is problem solving in general. It's like you've got a system that doesn't work. So like maybe your internet's not working, maybe something else isn't working in your house or whatever. Yes, I'm saying the house thing again. But like, how do you solve the problem? Where do you start to look? And things like that. That these things aren't taught, but are really chuffing useful.
One of us thinks we're not on mute. Oh, we've lost him.
The batteries have died.
Is it in him or is it in
this is a great example. Like, his microphone isn't working.
Oh, he just stormed off.
He's just left.
He's just left. That was it. I'm done.
But
I have to listen to this.
The microphone's not working. Where does the issue lie? Is it the microphone? Is it the computer? Like, these sort of problem-solving things.
It's like, I mean, that's not going to be in that specific example. Isn't going to be in an education system.
But why not? You got IT technology, like information communication technology. Yes.
He's back. There we go.
So how did you solve the problem?
I turned it off and turned it on. See, what happened was I lost count of how many times I've muted myself on the hardware mute, which doesn't show up on any of the software. It does make two different tones, but I couldn't remember which was which. So
both of them weren't working.
Both of them weren't working. I'm not quite sure why both of them weren't working, but I wasn't getting the battery beep, so I did the next easiest thing, turned it off and on again.
Yeah. Well, we're approaching the hour and a half mark on this one. We obviously have a lot of grudges to air in this particular one.
Timekeeping is something that should be taught in.
Timekeeping, yeah, planning. I mean,
it's alright. Just play this at like 1.6 speed, and then it'll be an hour.
How did you arrive
at that? And it'll be hilarious.
I just want to get it over with quicker.
So right, go on then. So what's the perfect system? Let's be selfish. What would our perfect system be? What would work for us? A school we would attend.
Well, now, there'd have to be beer available in every lesson.
Yeah.
I would get to choose my subjects.
And my hours.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's another thing. Like, school starts at, like, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. Like, for most children, you've, like, between, say, 11 and 18, that's not a great time to start.
It's bad. It's proven to be bad for
Yeah, exactly. But, so, this is just going to be a little side note that will not go any further than this because we are very, very short for time here. But I think the whole school system is screwed up with the whole social side of life and work side of life. Because
people are having too much fun.
No,
to go to school.
People are working 9 to 5 jobs because that is what society has deemed is the working hours of the day. Which means the kids have to go to school between 9 and 5 because there's no one around to look after them. But it's not the greatest time for a lot of people to start learning. Should it start at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning for them? But because everybody has to work 40 hours a week to pay the bills, they have to do something with the children at that time. So, yeah, I think it should start later. There should be a night or an evening school option for people that feel like they learn better in the evenings. I did a lot of work after 9 o'clock at night when I was at school, partly out of necessity.
I used to, when there was work due the next day, I used to go to bed reasonably early and set an alarm for early in the morning and get up and do it because the threat of it being due the next day just wasn't doing it anymore. It had to be due that day.
I mean, quite often I was working till 2 o'clock and then getting up at 6 o'clock to do another hour in the morning because I fucking needed to get this done.
So in our system, we need some serious stakes for us to achieve.
Yes, to actually do any work.
Like if it doesn't get done, you lose a limb. You know, that kind of...
Well, let's start with fingers. Like, how many fingers do I need to actually complete my school?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Subjects then. What subjects?
I think the subjects that we have in general are okay, but like we said, we need to evolve them into more separate ones. So like you've got your maths and your applied maths and your English and applied English. Although applied math is physics, so maybe you might need to come up with a slightly better name for it than that.
Maths for life, yeah.
Get that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
You probably can.
And then
probably.
chemistry is applied physics.
You're just gonna everything is applied physics. Is that where we're going?
It's just maths all the way down.
Everything's maths.
Yeah.
And
Biology is
philosophy.
applied chemistry. It is.
Biology's naming things.
No, it's geography. Colour this in and label the diagram.
I'd just like to see an attempt to improve the way things are taught over time.
We didn't even mention all the arts.
Oh, do they count as education? No.
Yeah.
I would go back and do more art
Like,
subjects.
let's bring in cinema studies or
Yeah.
something of the ilk into.
I'm really interested whenever you see a cave painting.
Why did they do it?
Yeah, why did they do it? Why is it so bad? I mean, the medium was challenging, okay, but they didn't. And if you look at art throughout time, then it did progress up to a point when it was just like amazing, and then it regressed up to now. It's just regressing now, but up to a point. I mean, to say things got more and more lifelike is what I'm calling.
Right.
Progressed in this case.
But cave
I'm not
paintings
saying
have
that's the
lasted.
final limit, but as a piece of sort of talent in replicating what is in front of you, then it seemed like at some point we didn't know how to draw with perspective and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't. I'm absolutely dreadful.
Yeah, like cave paintings look great.
Yeah.
But
Better than
like, it's what's it called? It's like a psychological phenomenon. Isn't it? It's the curse of knowledge, isn't it? Like once you know something, you can't imagine not knowing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe so. But so what I'm getting towards, having said that art's not a subject, I do believe there's some real skills in there that would have interested me, as well as I don't know that I'm ever going to be interested in the art that is an opinion of art that needs me to have an emotion about it. I'm going to struggle with that perhaps, but the skill behind it, I think that is teachable. I just think a lot of things are kind of given up on as being thought of as talent, when really I think that they could be taught. It's just that maybe we've not worked out how to teach them yet.
Yeah. I find that I can't remember where it came from, but it was suddenly found out what the rules of perspective were to draw convincing perspective. That kind of stuff, and it was just like all of a sudden, that's it. I find it strange. It's like a scientific discovery. It's like, here it is. Now we know how to do it. We can do it. It's like, did either of you two do art at like GCSE?
I can't remember.
A level was it? So.
No, I don't think I did it at GCSE.
We had choices, didn't we?
Yeah.
I did history, geography, CDT, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds
I don't
about
know
right.
what my other choices were. I think art was one of them that I didn't do.
I dropped history
German,
and
I didn't
geography.
do. Yeah.
Did
I quite like geography. History, I didn't really like. I don't really know why I chose it. I think lack of options.
2 10-hour exams for the art exam.
Yeah.
Sounds thrilling.
It was all right. You're just in an art studio with other people. You just can't talk. It's just a bit of a... Which seems a bit weird to me, because you'd already had to come up with your concept and like have sketchbooked it out kind of stuff.
Also, how are you going to help people draw?
Left a bit, up a bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to treat
It's
you
not
like
an
an
etch a
extra
sketch, is
sketch. Stanley the
Unless that
Silent
was your
Pavilion.
medium of choice.
Amazing. Yeah, I like it. And you put that in your book and you post it off, and if it happens to get shaken between you and the examiner who marks it, then, well... It's practically like the shredding Banksy.
Like, PE should involve more than just the 3 basic sports or whatever they are these days.
3 basics, the building blocks of all sport.
Yeah. So, like, bring in like dance and stuff like that. Like, I don't know how to dance. I don't appear to have any rhythm in my body, but it would have been interesting to.
Lost it all in the great bowel movement of '83.
Like, but there's also like there's a massive stigma around, especially males dancing.
I think there was in our day. I'm not so sure it's.
Yeah, it's definitely changing.
I feel compelled to mock them, even though it was. I was thinking that when we were talking about languages, maybe teaching them in junior school and dance and that sort of thing, there'd be perhaps less of a sort of preconception of it being not manly or whatever exactly it is that puts us off. I don't know. I just thought I was bad at it. I don't know if I always was bad at it. I just assumed I was.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do it, and no one could tell me. I think that's the consistent problem in things that I was bad at, or possibly bad at.
Or maybe you're just unteachable.
To dance, maybe. It's funny a thing like dancing, because you can look at someone and they look good dancing. Even though I don't know the rules, I can tell if someone's good or someone's not. I mean, maybe not to a fine degree, but I can say if someone looks ridiculous or not.
Well, I don't think it's a coordination problem, because I can play hockey, which involves a lack of hand-eye coordination and hand-foot coordination and everything. Because you're not always looking at the ball, you're conceptualizing where the ball is a lot of the time. It's just weird that like my body can do that, but it can't dance. But then I was never taught to dance, so who knows?
Well, in the next episode, as well as eating a Twinkie, we're going to do some live dance instruction for Ryan, the Can You Dance podcast.
It's a thrilling episode.
Lots of grunts and swearing. So, if that's your kind of thing, then you should tune in to
for our ultimate episode.
Ultimate.
So we've had the pen ultimate, this one. So surely the next one should be ultimate.
Oh,
that's how English works, right?
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Yeah.
The ultimate episode. We've bigged it up quite a lot now. Then. We have to come up with a spectacular topic.
This is just swearing and grunting, wasn't it, for an hour?
This episode, Getting Sweaty with Ryan. There you go. Well,
and 2 of his closest friends.
Too close.
In a socially distanced manner.
His close friends that are too close. We really must have had some grievances to air in this episode, because I don't think there's much dead space in that one, or a lot of ubbing and ahhing and trying to work out what we're going to say next.
There never is in our podcasts, because you edit them all out, right?
No.
Edit them in. just me and you, though. Me and you sound like gibbering idiots. I mean, more than really.
I have to, in order to make this seem real, I'm going to have to edit a few, stutters in there and things.
Wait,
I got a bit. I got a bit.
No,